Good afternoon, everyone. Afternoon, Jim. As always, guys, we are streaming live across all the platforms. Jim's on TikTok and Instagram and things. So please join in, keep it interactive. Any questions we will get to at the end, unless something we feel relevant to discuss as we go through and we see it coming into the comments. Okay. Today's topic, Jim, protecting your wealth. Now, I think a lot of people will probably agree that maybe they've had a bit of a beating lately, just with everything and inflation and just a multitude of things affecting how their investments and portfolios and things are running, and ultimately how it's affecting their wealth or building their wealth, should I say.
Let's just clarify this. Let's just clarify what wealth truly is. Now, we're talking about money, hard cash now. And we're talking about what you've got in assets as well. We're even talking about what you've got in liabilities as well. In other words, debt, because debt can be good debt, it can be bad debt, depending on how you use it. If it's making you money, obviously it's good debt because it's making you more than what it is, and that's how you leverage your position and make more money. But you're absolutely right, Richard. This is all about protecting your current position. The government is out there, and the Scottish government, the UK government, their whole premise now is how do we get the 185 billion it was a sloshing about in the economy in households at lockdown? How do we get that 185 billion back into our coffers? That's what their whole premise is all about. And this is why everybody has to be vigilant about protecting your wealth. Now, this is not, as I say, this is not for the multi-millionaires and the millionaires. Well, it could be actually, because those that can teach, those that are can teach, I suppose. But it is down to brass tacks. Even if you've got 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, if you've got a pension, if you've got a house, even if you own your house, that's protecting your wealth because you've got second home tax, you've got double council tax, you've got all these different things that the government's trying to do. Now, admittedly, you can turn around and say, well, it's somebody else it's going to affect. I'm not bothered. Naivety is often because what they're doing is it's called divide and conquer. What the governments are doing is divide and conquer, and it's, in other words, let's get the individual units of people. Let's pretend to the not so well off people that we're going for the rich. And at the same time as going for the rich, well, they're going, yes, with their flags and their pitchforks is out and their pitchforks and their torches out, let's get the rich. It's like, you didn't realise, but they're actually going for the people that are not so rich. It is the main, because if you can get a few extra percentage in tax out of the individual's wealth, you can make a hell of a lot more money that way for the tax man than you can of the people that are super rich, because they're 20% of their wealth is in Britain anyway. In terms of tax intake, an extra 20% of their profits. Because remember, you're not taxing their wealth; you're taxing their income. And most people that are actually rich or wealthy, don't actually make that much. You'd be surprised to know that I'm a basic rate taxpayer.
But people might find that, as I say, people might find that strange, but it's because the way you've set things up.
Of course. And this is why we talk about making sure you protect your wealth and overall. So we are going to talk about certain things throughout this. What are we going to talk about today, Richard? I mean, I think we're going to talk about a 10-step plan or something like that.
Well, I've kind of broke it down and we'll try and get through all 10. Do you want me to run through the 10 just now, or is...
Absolutely. Give us the headline. Anybody that's going to make any comments, please feel free to make comments. Right? If you've got any questions, we will cover them at the end of this. Now, roughly, you'll be with me for about an hour. I've got to go to the physio, so it will be about an hour. So, that's the reality. And so, hang on tight here, because there's going to be a lot of knowledge and a lot of information getting downloaded from my brain, basically. Of what I've learned over the last 30 years of developing millions in wealth. And that's monetary terms, by the way. I'm not just saying ideas. And you'll be getting that download from me. So if you've got a pen and paper, grab it now and take as much notes as possible, because writing it down, I know that already. That's like, but have you done anything about it? Probably not. So you need to write it down to reinforce it in your mind. That's why you write things down.
Take notes and write things down. It's
taking notes
best way to retain and learn things. But yeah, we're going to be covering today, obviously, looking at different platforms and picking the right platform for you and how to build your portfolio.
Yeah,
it's not just all about houses. I mean, the Wealth Creation Show is not just about property investment, although that is what we tend to refer to quite a lot. Thinking about ISAs and pensions today, we're going to cover that. Avoiding maybe poor value investments and investment funds and things. Steering clear of active funds that maybe don't deliver. That's something we're going to cover today. Index funds and overpaying. We're also going to look at ways to think before you start trading in whatever in your portfolio, whatever that may be, and check your fees maybe on your workplace pension. We're going to talk about workplace pensions as well, and looking at maybe your old pensions as well. A lot of people have a few pensions from older jobs and things. Look at them. Investing in your family, which is a really important one, and tax relief on pensions. While you can do that, and the best way to do that as well. We'll try and get through all that today. We should be able to, like I say, we try and keep it to an hour. It does run over sometimes, but I think we'll be rounding off just about the hour today.
I've got a couple of comments from YouTube actually.
I know, I've seen them coming through.
Each of you, Jim, both of you, great to learn more information. I'm not really sure who this person is, but they've obviously got a handle on their name. Jim and Richard, full knowledge of full information, pass on to us without charge. Thank you. You're welcome. You have a good accountant. You have a good accountant. I should say you are your own accountant. Yeah, I am actually my own accountant because I am a trained accountant. But I think probably the advantage for me is the very fact that I've always stayed in this sphere of creating wealth and obviously making tax more efficient. Personally for myself, so because I've learned so much about what I've had to do and how I've had to question everybody and who I've learned from as a result of that, because I still learn today, constantly all the time, be a student of life, be a student of the field that you want to be in, and you will be super successful and super wealthy as a result of that in anything you ever do for that very reason. So I've always been that, even though I'm an accountant by trade. It's property investment is my big thing. Wealth creation is my big thing. We obviously have the estate agency, we have the letting agency. I have other areas that I am actually involved in as well, which generate income. It's no multiple streams of income because I don't like that phrase really. It's actually just diversifying my income.
Diversifying your income.
But I core concentrate on where I am right now. So I don't deviate. This morning when I was walking around with Ian went, "You never thought about having a coffee shop, Jim?" And I went, "No." Ian, my business is real estate. I am in the business of real estate. McDonald's is in the business of real estate. They're not in the business of selling burgers. So yes, I would own the coffee shop, but I would probably lease it to someone else to run if that was ever the case. But I don't want to get involved in that because then if it doesn't happen, then I have to pick it up. I will rent to people, but I will not get involved in running it. I have my own businesses to run for that reason. Let's kick off then. What are we going to talk about?
Yeah, we're going to go in and look at looking at the right platform for you and your portfolio. But I think just before we lead into that, obviously, something that is probably the main topic of a conversation for a wee while now is obviously inflation. Inflation is currently sitting at 10.1. And obviously trying to grow your wealth and things with the current inflation can be a challenge. And we've seen a lot of our clients starting to feel the pinch, and sometimes they feel like they're trying to progress their wealth and they might find it that it's quite difficult, and inflation soaring at that level
inflation is not going down anytime soon. Don't kid yourself for what the media and the government say. It is absolute BS to convince you that. The reality is my perception. Hey, don't take my word for it. I mean, what do I know? This is only my opinion based on what I think and what I feel over the years. I can see inflation staying still quite high for the next 2 or 3 months. What it does after that, I'm not sure about when the bigger figures drop off the 12-month cycle and inflation maybe think. The perception is inflation might go down, but food inflation is actually a lot higher. Maybe the other things might go down, but then that will affect these industries because these will drop like a stone if that's the case and food inflation stays high. Therefore, people in these industries will lose their jobs. Therefore, the cycle will start. In other words, people losing their jobs, less tax into the coffers of the government, having to cut spending. Inflation will still stay where it is. Base rates will still have to go up to curb that because they've only got a one club approach to this. They've no got, when you're playing golf, it's like, you need a multitude of clubs. When you're actually running the country, you need a multitude of tools in order to do what you need to do. And the one club approach to sorting out inflation of increasing base rates isn't really the answer, but it's here to stay. So if you do have interest rates right now, and if you've got something that affects your interest rates, then possibly consider fixing them right now, because base rates are factored in already to go up in May. And I've got a funny feeling it'll go in June, it'll go in July as well. And we'll probably go up to around about 5% by the end of this. And then it might begin to come down, possibly next year, but I kind of see it coming down towards the end of the year. There's a lot of people actually coming out of fixed rate deals as well soon. And it's been talked about. There's hundreds of thousands of people coming out of fixed rate deals because their financial advisors said, well, I'll probably just take it for a couple of years. Oops. Because they took it out at 1.9%. And now it's going to be about 5%. That's a different budgeting exercise. I actually took a picture of one of my statements this morning. It's actually quite frightening to see if I can get a hold of it over here, as if by magic. This is one of my properties, and this is the statement for the interest only. And I'll tell you, look, in April 2022, the interest was £169.50. Today, the interest on that same mortgage in March 2023 is £372.
So
it's literally going up to £200 in that 12 months. That's more than what it was originally, by the way. That's why it's going to hit the fan. For a lot of buy-to-let investors, they're exiting the market, or they think they're not exiting the market because they think, oh, well, hang on tight. But if you're leveraged up to the hilt, then you've got to do something about it now, because you think the storm's over. No, it's just starting.
Yeah, our YouTube user that's listening, actually it's Victor. I just realised, because Victor says I just realised who it is. He's got a fixed rate interest for 3 years on his 5 buy-to-lets. So that's
perfect. You can't go better than that. Now I've got 5 years in some of mine. I've got Tracker, so that's one of the trackers. I had the good times while it lasted when it was low interest rates, but now I've got to pay for the heavier times. But I factored all this in. Remember, as a good investor, you have to factor these in. It's not going to all be sweetheart and roses all the time. You're going to have times where it's going to be a lot more challenging. Oh, I'm getting gifts on TikTok. Very much, Barry George. I really appreciate that. That'll go to charity, by the way. So that's where you need to be. You need to make sure you put away. It's like you put away some for a rainy day. We were all taught that when we were younger. This is what we're talking about right now. But more importantly, the point that we've got to do now is we've got to then batten down the hatches. And I don't mean actually rein back on what you're doing. I mean just protect your wealth and do it in a fashion where it still allows you to invest and still allows you to grow for the future. You know yourself that I'm in the process of buying another 30 properties from a portfolio at 2 million. There's no doubt about that. And I'll still continue with that because this is a long-term game for me. It make no difference to me at all whether the market goes down or up in between or whatever it is. I factor all these things in. It really is a medium to long term. Well, it really is long term. It's long term beyond me. It's generational wealth that I'm going to create next. Well, I'm creating right now. This is a classic example. It's like what you said, Richard. Perhaps now more than ever, you've got the essential to check you're paying what you're paying to invest and cut the costs where you can. After all, every single percentage point you pay in fees and other percentage points above inflation that you need to gain back just to break even in terms of what you're doing. A punch above your weight. It's essential to check that you're actually paying to invest and cut the costs where you can. Over the long term, costs can eat away at your wealth. So, I mean, this is a classic example. Say you had 100,000 invested and it earns 6% every year for 25 years, and you did not have any fees at all. Well, after 25 years, you'd have 430,000. Wow. 100,000, 6% every year for 25 years. 430,000. My God, that's a big return, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty good though. But if you pay 2% a year in fees, in 25 years, that would actually be 260,000. That's 40% less just because you paid fees on what you're doing. So you've got to be aware of these fees out there and what you're actually investing in and how much it's costing you. I had a pension company. We're actually transferring Elaine's pension right now, and we will talk about that. But I'll touch on this now while we're here. I had a pension company. We're transferring Elaine's pension from Diageo. Okay, you're not allowed to transfer it just because you want to transfer it. You have to go through a process to convince external body it does pension transfers. You got to pay for that, by the way. You have to pay for that whether you like it or no, even though you want to transfer. And they have to go through that process to say, yes, you can, or no, we recommend you can't. And some people won't be allowed to transfer their pension from a company pension, by the way. It's a defined benefit. The law will stop them. So you won't get that choice. So if you think you're going to retire with a defined benefit scheme from your company, and you're maybe just going to transfer it before the end of the term, it's not going to happen. Because the government, the regulations been put in place. So this thing that George Osborne says, you can go and buy a Ferrari with all your pension money, is BS. It was just all smoke and mirrors to make them look great. They stop you from doing that. Now they've allowed us to do it, but there was a wee bit at the end which they tried a wee fly one with me, and they said we're not going to manage to transfer it to Standard Life in time, even though Standard Life was saying, yeah, we could do it, but you could get our pension. And I immediately went, whoa, wait a minute, radar went up. Why do you want me to get your pension? Because the introducer fees they get, because the continuation fees in the first 3 years they get out of it as well. And I went, oh my God, we were going to transfer that money for them to get that. Now, man on the ground won't understand that happens, but I just know that happens. So I went, no, that's fine. We'll wait for, but we might miss the deadline for Standard Life. You'll have to get a new valuation from Diageo for the pension. So we'll miss that deadline. I went, that's all right. I phoned up the pension company, says, if I have to get a new valuation, how much will it cost me? 90 quid. Big deal.
Yeah.
But most people would have gone, oh my God, I've got to transfer it straight away because I'll miss that deadline. It's 90 quid to get another valuation from Diageo. And then you just transfer that at that time. You've got the time to do it. What do I care? So I'll pay the 90 quid. I'm not bothered. But you see how that could have got caught out. And I was very vigilant to notice that, wait a minute, you're going to get fees and you're going to take this off the equity. And this is what's going to happen. Your 100,000, it would be 430, would end up being 260 in this scenario. Of course, cheaper is not always better, remember. Quality advice and well-performing investments can pay for themselves several times over. But it will pay to ensure you get value for money rather than simply handing over bloated fees and that whole thing. Here's the 10 points then. What's the first one for you then, Richard, when you're keeping your costs lean for investing?
Yeah, I mean, it's picking the right platform for you and for your portfolio. And I mean, let's hear for you, Jim, about how did you...
By the way, we are not investment advisors.
Yeah,
we are not investment advisors. I'm not giving advice, either as Richard. We're just saying what we would think. And overall, if you need to seek professional financial advice, please go to a professional, qualified financial advisor. Unfortunately, the government kind of, ties their hands on what they could tell you. But I'm only telling you what works for me. And if it does not, what works for me might not work for you. So, so just take this on board when we're talking about this. This is only my opinion. It doesn't mean to say I'm right in your circumstances.
Yeah.
Because I don't.
And that's what I say. Picking the right platform that's right for you and the type of your type of portfolio. And I mean, when people start to invest, it's one of their first decisions is which platform they're going to use and what way they're going to go. And sadly, a lot of investors do stumble at that first hurdle. Jim, what about yourself? When you first started all those years ago, and I mean, how did you make the decision about like this is the direction I'm going to go? I'm going to do property investing. How did you get to that point?
Property investment was a long time for me. It was just the fact that I had to do some testing. There was no such thing as really buy-to-let mortgages or that at that time.
Yeah.
I just had to test and put all the numbers together and think, does this actually work? And then I did dummy testing, like putting adverts in the paper. And then eventually people are actually responding to these adverts at these prices. And I thought, folk are going to rent this property at that price. That makes absolute sense because I know what I could finance it at. So then I went ahead and did it. I dabbled with stocks and shares as well.
I was going to bring that up.
Doing it myself. So I dabble with stocks and shares as well, and I used to have Investors Chronicle. I used to follow Investors Chronicle, and I used to get their magazine all the time, and I used to look at the stock picks and everything like that. And it's like, you know, when I got to the end, I probably lost a few £100, if not £1,000. It just wasn't it. It's if somebody needs to tell you from a magazine what you should be doing next, then it's clearly obvious that you've missed the boat, because they know. They know already what's happened, because it's happened and everybody else is in it should have been in. So they've actually seen it before it happened. And the key is here to understand trends and where things are going in order to understand that type of market. And you have to be really an experienced stock market investor.
Yeah.
I noticed somebody actually mentioned on TikTok about what do you think of index funds. You're probably absolutely right. I mean, I like index funds because they follow an index. And you can't be wrong with the index if you're, for example, if you're following the FTSE 100. I mean, if you're investing, I jumped in when the FTSE 100 dropped to 3,800 and bought a whole load of stock at that level at 3,800. The FTSE 100 is sitting at 7.9 just now. So that money I put in at that time is almost doubled. Plus the fact that it's in a fund. So then the money I've got from dividends is actually on top of that as well, because I've never taken anything out of that. That's for my pension.
Right.
So that's in there. And that's very tax efficient because I use my pension as well to bring down my tax bracket. Hence the reason why I said I'm just a basic rate payer like everybody else. And that's a way to do it. But I dabbled individually with stocks and I thought, it's not worth the effort. By the time you learn, I mean, a lot of people just like learning that process and understanding how to do it. And by the time you've learned all that process and understand how to do it, you could have just paid someone to do it.
Yeah.
They would have, I mean, people in Scottish Widows, Standard Life, and all the rest of it have all these funds, Vanguard, BlackRock. These have all got good performing funds, and they'll steer in the right direction after, giving you the right advice. Just watch out for the fees. That's all you need to watch out for. I literally pay 0.75 on my pension every year of the fund value. That's all right to me. Because when I work out 0.75 of the fund, that's literally less than me going out and doing one house sale. So why? And that gives me all that time, and I don't need to learn anything else. I don't want to be glued at a screen looking to what stock to pick and everything. That's not me. I would rather invest in long-term stuff, medium to long-term stuff to make money. There was one or two in between, which I've caught out. The companies that I worked for before, good investments. I knew straight away it was a good investment. I saw the writing on the wall before everyone else, and I thought, yeah, good stock pick. And I did it. And I made a lot of money out of it within a 3-month period. And that was perfect. So I think it's only really about choosing the right platform, as you said, Richard, and the right portfolio for you, for your risk as well.
Yeah. And you said about fees there, and I was going to say, depending on, obviously, platform fees can differ quite widely, depending on obviously what your portfolio is. And the same portfolio, maybe on two different types of platforms and things, can vary in value, like by thousands of pounds even, over the course of maybe a year or two. So which platform's right for you will depend on the size of your portfolio and what your strategy is and things as well.
Absolutely. So index funds, I would stick with them. If it works for you, it's what you said, Richard. Think ISAs and pensions and mitigate your tax. This is another key one, and I just talked on that quite a bit. Once you've actually chosen the provider that you're going to use to administer your pension, depending on who you want, you've got people like Norwich Union, you've got Scottish Widows, you've got Standard Life Investments, you've got a whole load of different investment house platforms, Vanguard, or all the rest of it. You can then decide what risk you want out of that. You can actually choose if you want to opt for an advisor, if you don't want to opt for an advisor as well, which is a good one. But then again, it's all down to, is that going to cost? And is it going to take money out of my pension? Now that they'll declare that, by the way, beforehand. They should declare that. So don't let them press you into it. They should actually write out to you and say, if we did this or we did that, it'll cost you this amount of money. And we'll take this amount of money in commission. They actually tell you that by law. But if you pick the wrong product, you could needlessly land yourself with a large tax bill if you do it wrong. Hence the reason why I run a lot of my scenarios in my mind about what I'm thinking and how I think I'm going to pay myself and what I think I'm going to put into my pension. I run it by my accountant before I get to the year end, because you can't put into your pension retrospectively. So once the end of the tax year is finished, if you've not put into your pension that tax year, you really can't go back and actually put into your pension. There is laws, where you can have, an allowance for the last 2 or 3 years, but I'm not interested in that. I really want to plan it and do it at that point in time before the end of the tax year end, because it mitigates my position as well in terms of what I can get, not what I get on top of my pension, but what I can get to bring me down to a lower rate threshold. So if I'm in a higher rate threshold, if I put a contribution, it goes into my personal pension, it then gets taken off of my taxable income before it actually gets taxed. Therefore, it brings me down to lower rate. So I'm getting the kickback of the higher rate back to myself, but I'm also getting the basic rate added back into my pension when it's added into the pension fund itself. So I get two bites at the cherry there, and that's how people should use it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, personal pensions, and the way that obviously you invest into them, and you'll pay, like you say, there's no tax on the money that you're putting into that account, and there's ways to mitigate that as you.
If you do it from your, just as a by the way, if you do it from your own company, if you've got a limited company and you put a pension contribution into your own pension from your own limited company because you're an employee, it will go down as a tax deduction against your company, against the profits for corporation tax. But you won't get the tax back on the additional contribution that you're putting in from your company. So that won't benefit you at all. That's just it gets tax deductible against your corporation tax. That's it really. But it's another way of taking what they call, I think it's salary sacrifice they call it. Instead of taking a big salary, you get a contribution from your pension into your contribution for your company into your pension. And that's another way to do it. But remember, the pension contributions I know most people won't get up to this level. I think it's up to 65,000 now for the year from 40,000. So you can a combination of what you get from your company and a combination of what you put in yourself will make up to that 65,000. So essentially, can you pay yourself in dividends, have a lower rate tax, therefore put it back in and get the basic rate tax back on it? So you're actually making money on the tax. Doesn't sound right. That? Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes, I've run it by them. It's like this lunacy. It's like
as you're saying that, I'm thinking, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Richard, honestly, if you put 9%, you'll get taxed at 8.5% or something on your dividend. You put a contribution in your pension, you get 25% or 20% back on that.
Well, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people out there that didn't know that. Just like
that's mental. That's absolutely mental. But that's what you do. That's what you can do. That's how the system works. And you could listen. I'll say it. You could piss and moan all you want about how the system is unfair, but you're not going to be able to change it. So you may as well just use it to your advantage.
Oh, of course, definitely.
It's tax efficient. That's really what it comes down to. So that's where I would say you should use you could use self-invest PIPs as well, personal pensions, where you can actually take your pension as a SIP, which is a self-invest personal pension.
Yes.
You could put it into there and you could use it to trade, and you could also use it to buy commercial property. And the rent is tax deductible. It's no tax on it when you put it into your personal pension. So that's how it works. I don't know too much about SIPs because I'm not interested. Because I worked out the cost to run the SIP, because you have to get someone else to run it.
Yeah,
is for me is detrimental to the amount I'm trying to make. My pension is only a way to bring me down to lower rate. That's all, nothing else. Yeah. That's all the pension's for. It's not for my future, by the way. I don't invest in my pension for my future. I've already got that secured.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just to be clear, that's because you've already got everything else set up for your retirement and things. But that's what you use that as a vehicle to alleviate your tax position.
Taxman will be taking notes now, by the way. In 10 years' time, they'll come back to me and say, "You said."
And it's
I'll be getting an audit. I'll be getting an audit, but it doesn't matter because I've had audits before and they've gone away and they've had to say, "Oh, we're going to have to pay you tax back." so most of the times HMRC didn't come near me because they realise if anybody comes near me, they're going to have to pay me tax back.
Yeah, but as you see, you were saying here, Jim, general investment accounts, but you won't benefit from the tax perks, and you will pay your tax dividend, tax on your dividend income and like your capital gains and things. And that right.
Yeah, absolutely. Avoid another one. The third one for me is avoid poor value investment funds. This is a given, really. We could just speed up with this one, actually. If you could start constructing a portfolio and you get caught into all these costs involved, you know the example before. 100,000, 6% every year for 25 years comes at 430,000. If you get 2.5% taken off, I think it was, of that, you ends up at 260,000 after 25 years. So you can see where all these costs. So avoid these poor value investment funds. You could use websites like TrustNet and Morningstar, which allows you to see the returns of any fund and compare them to their peer group, as defined by the fund categories set out by the investment trade bodies and stuff like that. The next tool at your disposal is assessment of the reports and funds. There's loads of websites out there that do this. The other one for me is steer clear of active funds that don't deliver. So what do we mean by that, Richard?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously people use actively managed investment funds can be a great way to grow your wealth, as it gives you access to portfolios and handpicked by like an expert fund manager, and people use fund managers. However, actively managed funds tend to be several times more expensive than low-cost index funds and things, which track the market rather than try to beat them.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It's quite interesting because I've got a message here, and I'll cover it now. If you had £1,000 to invest, this is John that actually asked this, what would you do now with your experience? I would ask me if I could invest in me. Genuinely, I would. I'm not doing that, by the way. I'm not running an investment fund or anything like that. But genuinely, I'd just be going straight to people like me and thinking, can I just invest in you? I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. And I'd be minimizing my risk. In other words, I'd be getting some sort of guarantees that this money isn't just for somebody to do anything with it. I'd be getting money secured against assets that this person owns, or a personal liability from that person to say that they're personally liable if anything happens to that money. And then I'd be getting some sort of fixed rate return on it as well. So I wouldn't be just giving money to someone. You know, there's property investors out there doing that now. Oh, come invest and I'll give you an 8% return. Okay, that'll be an 8% return. But the 8% return is with strings. It's like, well, you don't get a secured guarantee. So you're open, you're just like, if this doesn't work out for me, you've lost everything. That's what that is. I mean, I would rather pin my colours to the mast when I'm getting somebody like that and say to them, I'll give you a personal guarantee. In other words, you give me the money, I'll probably give you a wee bit of lower rate, but I'm giving you a personal guarantee that if anything happens to that money, you're guaranteed to get it back anyway. And then I'll be making sure that I had the assets aside in order to make sure I can actually pay that back. By the way, that's something the banks don't do. They don't have any. They do fractional lending, which is completely different.
I would always say if you were considering doing that and investing in someone or in what they're doing, do your research about who they are and what they are actually doing and how their performance and things. Yeah.
The £1,000 as well. This question is, it could easily be sucked up with fees with people. So I would actually, and it depends if you need access to it straight away. That's another one you've got to think about. If you need access to it straight away, then you're probably just putting in the highest instant access account you can get. If you don't need access to this money, then you're probably looking for a more long-term fixed rate return. And if you don't need access to it for 20 years, it's like, and you're near enough your pension age, stick it in your pension. You'll get a better return. You'll get an instant uplift of 20% straight away on the tax when you put it in your pension. And watch out as well for pensions. If your employer's got a pension, they've maybe got in their contract that they'll give you the statutory minimum, but they've also got, sometimes some of them have got, if you put in extra, they'll put in extra as well to your pension. So you're obviously you put in extra, you're getting the uplift from the contribution from the taxman plus you're getting the uplift from your employer.
Your employer's contribution, yeah.
That's a double whammy. That's fantastic. That's money. That's money making the money.
Money on the money.
Like somebody, I don't know who said it this morning or something. I saw a thing about, I would sell my house and I would do this and I'd invest it in something else. Would I hell? I would take my house that I'm making money on already and I'd leverage it against the bank and I'd take the bank's money and invest it in something else. So I'm making money on the house and I'm making the money on the bank's money.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be making money on both things. That's what I'd be doing. I wouldn't be selling one thing to put in another.
Yeah, no, that's good advice, Jim.
Let's just be careful what we say about
advice.
That's your opinion, Jim.
Yes.
I'm very conscious because what we're doing here is actually, I'm not giving advice, I'm giving my opinion.
Yeah.
And my opinion is like anybody else's opinion. It's free and it doesn't cost you anything. And it maybe is worth that. Nothing. So it's just what I would do personally.
Okay. Yeah, and as far as obviously steering clear of active funds and things that don't deliver. So beware of the so-called closet tracker funds. These claim to be actively managed and charge the fees of one, but simply track the stock market and things, and therefore offer something no better than just maybe cheap index funds. And investors get a bargain basement investment style, and they get it at a premium price. So really,
I mean, you could spot these closet tracker funds by checking the top 10 holdings in a fund. They're published regularly on any websites or that, and you can see them. And if they look suspiciously similar to the top holdings of the index itself,
mm-hmm.
For the FTSE 100, and it's trying to outperform, they're basically a closet tracker. And so the fees should be extremely minimal in terms of what they're doing. The other one as well, don't overpay for index funds. Be careful of that. The cost of index funds has plummeted in the last 5 years, so index funds is a big one. For example, Fidelity Index World Fund, which tracks the index of the largest companies in the world, costs just 0.12% every year, because all it does is track.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you call a closet tracker. All it's doing is tracking that fund. And yet there's other investment houses out there doing the same, but they're charging a fortune. And you can see that. I'll keep going back to that. I can't believe these figures. No charges to charges, and your fund basically drops almost about 200 grand in the 25 years. That's why they're taking that. That's why they're taking a whole load out of your pensions, your money, by doing that. So I just have a bulk standard fund that tracks a certain index linked. It's linked to the index, the FTSE for us. That's what I invest in. UK stocks has always performed very, very well, and things like Diageo and Glencore and Pfizer and Glaxo and all these blue chip stuff. Very, very good at performing. They're over all the years, so they're good medium to long termers, and they always pay out every funds because all the pension funds are actually invested in them. So they're deliberately designed to give dividends every single year in order to grow. But that just keeps going back into your fund because that gets dividends go in, therefore it gets bigger, therefore your fund gets bigger as well. And then when the FTSE goes up, that gets bigger as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Gary said there. Gary says, I have 95% index funds and allow myself 5% to pick individual stocks with. Find it quite interesting and dare I say good fun.
Aye. And that's it. That's all it should be.
Yeah.
Just a bit of fun. Unless you're a specialist and you know about these funds and how they work and you know how to plan, then it's all a bit of fun. And be prepared to lose the lot because it's effectively like gambling. So the first thing you talk about gambling is gamble the money you could afford to lose. And if you win, your quid's in. If you lose it, you're still okay. That's how gambling works. That's how it should work anyway. So the next one, Richard?
Yeah, I mean, thinking about things before you start trading in your portfolio. And buying and selling is obviously integral to maintaining like a healthy investment portfolio. But over trading can get costly. And most investment platforms, like you say, Jim, charge fees, obviously, for trading. And you need to obviously be wary of what those fees are. And have a think about what you're actually doing before you actually set out and start trading if you're trading in with your portfolio.
You get loads of funds out there. I mean, over the years, when I was trading in shares, yeah, you're absolutely right. It was costing money to keep trading. And sometimes they say it's like the currency thing. Oh, we don't charge you any fees at all. Well, you actually get less of a share price, or you pay more in the share price at the end, when you buy it. So that's how they're getting their money. They're overinflating the share price that they're actually buying it at, and you're getting less of a fund, and they're getting the difference in between. And as well, when I started to dump stock, I actually did quite a fly one, because if you dump stock at one time, like 60,000 shares I dropped, but I dropped them in 20,000 slots. If I dropped $60,000 at once, their automated system actually gave me less a share value than if I dropped them at 20 at a time.
Right.
So I dropped them at 20 at a time in the same day, and the guy came back to me on the phone and went, "That's no fair. You're not meant to do that." And I went, "Well, your system allowed me to do it."
Yeah.
So I actually saved quite a bit of money by actually separating the stock, the dumps, or the stocks. And that, so think about, you're absolutely right, Richard. Think before you start trading in your portfolio. If you're just trading one for the other, and it's not really any better. It's almost like people get itchy feet. It's like, oh God, I've got to do something. It's like, no, for God's sake, leave it alone. If it's making money for you, leave it alone. Stop tinkering with it. It makes money for you. There's no point.
Yeah, it's kind of like the thing we always reinforce: boring pays well, and people get a wee bit, like you say, itchy feet and want to do something and upset things. It's like, just leave it. If it's working, leave it.
There's people out there that will go and what we call self-sabotage just to get the excitement. So in other words, it's all going swimmingly well. They're making an absolute fortune. They're really turning a good amount of money. I saw somebody the other day, I was talking about trading online, and they were going on about, if you trade online, you could make another £2,000 a month, and this is going to be unbelievable, and I'm going to sell you a course. And I'm going, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, an extra £2,000 a month, that's not exactly much. But then when I put it in the context, I went, wait a minute, that's £24,000 a year.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's what I first started doing as a salary. It's like, and I'm thinking that's not much now. That's, that you could easily get caught up in that, and you don't understand what's happening right in front of you. So do not overtrade. Do not spend all that money just because you're bored. For God's sake, take up a hobby and go out for a run. Instead, just get yourself away from it. Don't tinker with it if it works. Leave it alone, because it'll benefit you in the long run. So that's what I call the self-sabotage people. They just can't sit still. They have to tinker. They have to think about the stock market. They have to talk about everything. They have to go on about this. They have to go on about that. You know yourself, I very rarely do anything with my portfolio except keep all the indicators in the right place.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that for 30 years. I don't do upsets, and I don't do let's change this and we've talked about the increase of rent. We've talked about the 3% or the 6% that we should increase, or should we go to the local authority people, the people on benefits, and say, look, just put it up to the local housing allowance. We'll agree a new lease, and that will be perfectly legal. If we both agree, rather than me actually saying I'm putting it up. And then we've actually discussed the fact that if I put it up 3%, on one, it's maybe 650 a month. 650 times 0.03, I'm going to get another 20 quid a month. If that person decides to leave, and it's a good return, the 650, if that person decides to leave because I've tried to get an extra 20 quid a month, if it's empty for 1 month, I'm literally going to have to take, divided by 20, I'm going to have to take 32 months to get that money back. If they put, that's 3 years almost. Why would I increase it by 3% then? I'm not following the herd when it comes to this. I'm taking the proper commercial reality, business approach to this, and looking at it saying, I'm not just increasing everything by 3% because Patrick Harvey's a bampot and I hate him. Well, that bit's factually true. But what I'm saying to people is, like, think about it before you do it. If they've been a long-term tenant, they've been in for years and years and years and years and years, and you probably need to increase the rent because it's needed, they'll go, yeah, okay, I expected that. That's okay. That's fine with me. But they've just moved in the last, just over a year ago. you're allowed to increase the rent, and you could get the 6%, because you can see there with the mortgages I've just showed you now. Anybody who's got a mortgage is probably justified it straight away, the increase of the 6%. But do you want to jeopardise it for that 1 month? If they move out as well and you kind of get a tenant and there's 2 month goes, that's 6 years I'll have to take to get that money back. That doesn't make sense at all to me. So you've got to think about that before you start trading in shares. You've got to also think about it before you start investing and changing your property investment portfolio and decisions.
I was just going to say, I think in general, just really sit and think about decisions that you're making or considering making.
Don't follow the herd, for God's sake.
Yes, and just because everybody else is doing something doesn't make it right.
I think
for you.
See, when you get all the people on the property investment forums panicking, they're all panicking about, oh my God, I'm going to have to sell my portfolio. And I'm going, oh, this is brilliant.
I'm buying.
Because as I don't need to be buying, Richard. As everybody's leaving the market, it's making my market more and more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me more indispensable to the government, the Scottish government. You know, they could like it. They could say till they're blue in the face about the fact that, you know, we want every single property, you know, their desire to have every single property in their ownership. And that's not really true, to be honest. But there's that story's going about. They just want all your property. They're going to buy them and take them all off you. That's their theory in, you know, 2040 or whatever it is. I mean, that will not happen because they can't do what we do. And when it comes to commercial reality and boots on the ground, it's a different story. You need the private rental sector for the flexibility of what it offers. And there's nobody else out there that can accommodate for this, even in the short or the medium term. Dare I say, not even in the long term, because of the way the governments work. They just don't have the funding or the ethos when they change over every 4 years. It's different people that come in that have a different agenda. They can think completely different, and they forget about all this. And in 10 years' time, this rent freeze and the moratoriums on evictions, it'll be old news. It'll be like, do you remember when there was a rent freeze and there was moratoriums and evictions? That's what we'll be talking about in 10 years' time. It will be completely irrelevant. But for now, it's like, yeah, beauty. When people are leaving the market, it makes me more valuable.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, think about what you do before you start doing something and making decisions.
Mm.
The next one, Jim, you've already covered about pensions and workplace pensions. I was going to say, check the fees that you have on your workplace pensions and things. And employees don't have any say on what their workplace pension provider is. It's decided by your employer. However, you do have control of obviously investment costs and things. So check how your money has been invested and make sure that the funds suit you and that you are not paying more than necessary.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So-called default investment options may be the most appropriate option for many workplace pensions and investors. These can have a higher fee, so you've got to watch this. I mean, why do you think Norwich Union was so gun-ho to get into this market when the government was saying, well, you can only get a certain amount? They've worked out in some shape or form how they can get more fees out of you without actually breaking the rules of what the government was saying. Plus the fact, if you're in with everybody else, you're just going to have the same result as them when you get out of it. And by the way, that's exactly where you are right now.
Yeah,
that's not going to change. If the masses are doing what you're doing, you're going to get the same as the masses. And if the masses are on £50,000 a year when they retire, you'll be on £50,000 a year as well. But inflation will be sky high, and basically, you know, your bar of chocolate will now be £10 instead, and everybody will pay £10 out that 50,000. So you'll have exactly what everybody else has in terms of standard of living. You'll have nothing more than what everybody else has. I still don't understand it. Nobody gets that. Very few people understand that. You'll still have what everybody else has had and what they've got now. It won't change for you at all unless you do something different over and above what everybody else is doing in order to get that edge, in order to get that extra wealth, that extra income. This is why the sacrifice is like, you know, we're going to come in. You've got to, I will do today what others will not to achieve tomorrow what others cannot. It is so true. So, so-called investment default options, you just watch out for them. Check with your investment provider. You don't need to check with your employer. All you do is you go to the administrator, like Norwich Union. I think it's Norwich Union in your guys' cases. and actually what funds it invested in. And if you've got the choice to move funds and change the fees on these funds, because they charge it on the funds, not on you, then move it. Don't let it fall into the default.
Yeah.
Bring the cost down by switching to a different option and something that's more sensible and with a longer working life ahead of for you ahead of them. That's it really. The other one is coming on to ensure that old pensions are actually quite shipshape now. Don't assume that pensions will no longer pay and you no longer pay until they're quietly working away in the background to grow in your retirement wealth. Costs could be needlessly eroded for that reason. Now, I had a pension from Tillis Russell many years ago. They actually said, look, we can give you a transfer value because they were trying to get rid of people. We can give you a transfer value of £18,000 right now. It's like, only work with you for 5 years. That's all right.
Yep.
Remember that's a long time ago, or we can give you something like 10 grand in your hand right now, and we can give you 12 grand as a transfer value. Needless to say, I could make more money with the 10 grand. So I'll take 10 grand now, and I'll take the 12 grand transfer value. But I took that and I put it in my standard life fund, and then I also took my £6,000 from my Beaufort pension, which I worked with Beaufort PLC for a wee while as a financial controller and management position. And I stuck that in my transfer value as well. So £18,000 in. Now, I worked out the other day, actually, with all the money, the transfers I got. Now, remember, this is free money, really, because I'm just looking at that as free money I got from my employer for working for them, because my salary was what I lived on. And also the tax uplifts I got as well. And then also everything else I got and what funds I've put in. But I've probably made about £60,000 on what I've put into my pension, over and above all the tax allowances. So I got all my tax and allowances as well, plus I made the 60 grand over and above. So it's increased by 60 grand in real terms, over and above all the money it's been in it. I thought that's all right.
Yeah.
Quite good. I'm happy with that. So ensure your old pensions are shipshape, track down the old pensions, scrutinise their holdings, maybe think about transferring them into your existing pension so it's all in one pot, because you've no got them all sitting. Because when they get to something like, I don't know, a couple of £1,000, there'll be nothing left of them by the time you retire. They'll be worthless.
I was going to say, there's a lot of people that will have jobs previously, like yourself, Jim, who could bring their old pensions in and combine them and have it all in one place.
Yeah. So I think that's the key. Just track down all your old pensions, make sure, and you might want to just consolidate them into one big pension, and to make sure that they're done for that. Okay.
Yeah. And then, that's quite a good thing for people to think about if you've got these older pensions lying around.
Somebody mentioned crypto the other now, and I know crypto is some other people's things, but again, crypto, it's kind of gambling. So,
in your opinion, Jim?
Well, no, it is gambling. Because it does go up and down, and then have you really got an exit? Because you're relying on somebody else buying it off you when you exit. Yeah. And there's quite a limited market for that kind of thing. It depends. The money's made on all the platforms, really. So you've got to be careful of crypto and where you're doing. But that is one of them. Gold's tanking right now. The dollar's getting stronger, so gold is actually tanking. It's in the news today. So anybody that's invested in gold doesn't produce anything. Gold produces nothing. It's supposed to secure your place on the your money and keep the value of your money. Does it hell? It's not kept anything. It's like by the time everybody's invested in gold all these years, I've got gold. It's like, I didn't ken, you must have watched too much Goldfinger and James Bond or something like that. You think gold's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But to me, I just don't get it. Yeah. Now that could be naivety in the fact that I haven't looked, but it just doesn't produce anything. It doesn't produce anything. It doesn't make any money. You're just actually where you are right now, and you're only relying on someone else to buy it for you, to buy it from you at that price. Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of gold, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed gold a few times on the shows before, and it's how it performs and how its performance throughout the years. Maybe look back 50 years and things on the show before, and I would tend to agree with you there on that. But next one, Jim, is invest with your family. Now, some investing services are cheaper if a number or a family member can sign up alongside you. For example, obviously, interactive investors, friends and family plans allow a customer to give up to 5 people free subscriptions to services and paying them a single one-off fee and things.
You're absolutely right there, Richard. And sometimes it is a good thing, but you've got to have a coherent strategy with your family, and you've got to have everybody on board with it. It's a hell of a lot of work. I remember when I was at Tillis Russell, I tried to convince everybody, let's all put a £5 in every single week or every single month or whenever it is, and we'll put it into an index fund based on the Japanese Nikkei, the index. Okay?
Yeah.
And at that time, the Nikkei was something like, it was like about 12,000. I think the Nikkei today is at 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, and people were going, well, what will happen here and what will happen there and what will happen here? And it's like, I'm wasting my time. I only wanted to do it for other people and help them make money, but it was too encumbrant for me and all the time it was involved in having to satisfy everybody. Hence the reason why I say to you, it's like, yeah, we'll give people advice on what they should be doing in property investment, where they should be going, how they should be doing it. But we can't make that decision for them, and we won't actually ask them to invest in any funds of ours, because then we become responsible for that, and that's too much like climbing a mountain to me. When I could, why would I need anybody else's money if I could do it myself?
Yeah.
And that's how everybody should think. Why would I need anybody else to go into business with me if I could do this myself? This is quite interesting. When the masses are fearful or be greedy.
I was just going to read that, actually.
The actual person that said that, what you're looking for is John Paul Getty used to say, in order to be wealthy in life, observe the masses and do the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. That's more than likely what you should be doing. And that along the line, is it Victor?
It's Victor.
It's really, I think it's Warren Buffett who actually said that. When the masses are fearful, that's the time to buy. When the masses are actually ploughing in, that's the time to get out, because they're all you're on the high, you're getting out on the high, you're going in on the low, and that's where you should be.
Quite like Biggie Smith.
Put 100,000 in a camper van. What could go wrong? Depreciation.
I think that's maybe in reference to the SMT, but anyway.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, that's what that is, Jim. And Victor said, yeah, as Warren Buffett. Yeah, that's Victor.
Yeah.
And the last bit, Jim, was bank tax relief on pensions while you can. And you touched on, obviously, tax relief with pensions and things there, as we were speaking earlier as well.
There's also money you could get by investing in a normal bank account. See the interest that you make. Mm-hmm. Often the interest tax is deducted on that interest. And if tax is deducted on the interest, you should be claiming it back at the end of the year, because you've got a personal savings allowance of £1,000. Everybody has it in Britain. So if you're getting taxed on your interest on your bank account, on your savings, most people are actually they've been given a dispensation automatically with, and they're usually paid gross. But sometimes you could end up falling foul of it. Classic example of that is the PPI. The PPI payments.
Yeah.
A lot of people were actually taxed on the interest on the PPI payments that they had to pay. So they've actually been taxed on that, but in actual fact, that should have fallen under their £1,000 yearly allowance. So the tax that they got charged on their PPI payments is actually claimable. You can actually claim it back still now. And I've been looking for mine, but I can't find it. I can't find what happened to it. It was something I got for nothing anyway. But it's still the fact that tax is claimable back. Mm-hmm. So bank tax relief on pensions, while you can, and that's where I was talking about you work out the end of your tax year first before you get to it. Classic in property investment. I mean, if you've got most people in property investment work a day job, they're getting paid a set amount every single year, and then the property investment is outside of that. So if you can predict by January, February, well, January is probably better, the end of January, if you can predict where you are there in your property investment, what you're going to be making in profits, if any, nowadays, and then you could extrapolate that a wee bit. In other words, add on the income that you're going to make, because the tenants are going to be staying there for the next 2 months, and the interest that you got on that. So all the costs that are going for the next 2 months, and you can add that on, and that allows you to know where you are in terms of where you're going to come in at profit, and then you add that onto your salary. If that's going to push you into the higher rate bracket, get your accountant to work it out for you, by the way. And then what you could do is you can make a contribution to your pension fund just at the right amount, so you get relief on that, and it brings you down to the lower rate bracket. That's what you do. So that's about making sure you've got the right tax relief, so using your pension fund for that reason. I mean, pension tax relief cost the Exchequer about 42 billion last year. 42 billion. So you could see why they're trying to keep an eye on it and stop people actually getting it. And I've got a funny feeling they're going to make it worse, and the fact that they're going to start putting taxes on pensions. What you've got to understand as well, this is how the government thinks. We'll get everybody into pensions with their money, and by the time their money's all locked up in pensions, we'll nail the fuckers to the wall.
Yeah.
We'll nail them to the wall. It's like, we'll get them now because they can't take their money elsewhere. It's now sitting, and we could see it in broad daylight, so it's an easy target.
Yeah.
Why do you think they want every single landlord registered in the whole of Britain? Because we're now an easy target, because they've now got us tracked. So they know if there's 20 million houses in Britain, or 2 million, well, there's 2 million houses in Britain rented. They know in Britain if there's 2 million houses rented, if they want to raise 20 million, then all they need to do is tax every person a certain amount of money on the 2 million properties, and they've raised 20 million out of the buy-to-let market, just like that.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think the Scottish government's doing? Why do you think they put ADS up? It wasn't to deter investors for first-time buyers. They were getting 18 million or 33 million in their coffers for the extra tax for them. That's why they put it up, because they've now got 33 million to go and spend somewhere else on someone else. They're taking the money to us because we're now traceable and trackable, and they're giving it to someone else because we've now got it in hard writing. So we become part of their spreadsheet for money for bringing revenue in to the government. So when they've got you categorised and they've got you there, and that's exactly what they'll do. They've got you all into limited companies now, because we're all changing to limited companies and buy-to-let investors. And then the UK government will go, I tell you what, mark my words, it will happen. So mark my words. I'm doing Instagram and all the rest of it. Mark my words. This will happen in years to come. I've seen the consultation paper somewhere floating about many years ago from the government. And somebody says, could you dig that out again? I'm like, God, I can't mind where I put it. It's like, it's very controversial. Every single limited company in Britain who has one or less employees, their income from that limited company will be classed as income tax from now on and added on to your normal day-to-day job income. You will not be allowed to use corporation tax anymore. See how that happens?
Yeah.
Because they've got everybody over a barrel, because they've got all us unlimited companies now. That's why they want to encourage all small businesses to go into limited companies. Or what they do as well is they've done it classic. In order for you to get an income out of that company, you're either going to have to do PAYE and be an employee, so we'll get money that way, or you'll do dividends. Why do you think they raised the income, the tax on dividends? Because they knew it was an easy target. Because they know how much dividends is getting taken out in the year, and they know what percentage is getting taken out. So the next year they go, we need another 2-3 million, or we need a 2 or 3 billion. Tell you what we'll do. We'll just add another couple of percentage points onto the tax credit on dividends, and we'll charge them it. That's why your dividends are now up at 8.5 or whatever it is. And if they want more, it'll go up to 10%, and they'll get it that way. But see what I mean about the wealthy people that plan for their tax. They go, oh, that's quite interesting. I could still take that out and put that back into my pension, and it will move it up by the tax credit for the 20%. So I'm paying 10 to you, the government, but I'm actually getting 20% back. See how that works? Because it's going at my pension. Yeah. And I'm getting it as a deduction against my tax. That's why you've got to be careful. So this generous 40% of tax relief for higher taxpayers has been under scrutiny and actually could be reduced as well. This is another thing you've got to think about. I mean, Rishi Sunak actually said this. He promised to reduce the basic rate tax from 20 to 19% in 2024.
This is when he was Chancellor.
Yeah, when he was Chancellor. But whether that happens or no, I can't see that happening at all. Could you see that happening next year? No. Basic rate tax. It might come down because it might. I mean, the difficulty here is you bring the basic rate of tax down, all the people that are wealthy get the basic rate of tax brought down as well. So it benefits everybody. So they have to think about different ways of doing things, and I'm going to talk up for the people that are actually not that well off. If they're working and knocking their pan in, then let's come up with a method where they actually get the benefit, but it doesn't pass on to the more wealthy people. I mean, how much more does wealthy people need? How much more does rich people need?
I know.
I've got to buy my boat. It's but I'm making light of that.
Yeah, I know.
And you've got to understand that very few people actually do that. You only get to see that on Instagram. You get to see it, well, probably most of that on Instagram is just smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
These people didn't actually own the boats. They probably just got a shot at it for the day from someone, and made out that they actually have the boat without actually saying
hired the boat or hired the car for the day.
They've hired the boat, they've hired the car, they've had it out for the day, and they pretend to everybody it's theirs, but they don't actually say it's not theirs, and they don't actually say it's theirs. They just give the implied impression it's theirs. So then they attract people, and that attracts so-called the money. Yeah. Anyway, that's us.
Yeah.
I think we've laboured that to death. Let's take. I mean, I've been going through some of this. Inspire for Success says, question mark, increasing rent is okay. Yeah, increasing rent's fine if it justifies the means. Yeah. I would say tenants don't leave for a small increase. Yeah, tenants might not leave for a small increase, but do you really want to take that risk, and do you really need to afford that risk? Have an open discussion with them. Just say, look, my costs are going up. That's the way I want. It's just me personally. That's how I operate my business. I don't see the need to increase rent for people that are in situ, because I'm hedged against it for that reason. Big up them. And said fake gold. I'm not really sure what he means by that. That could be crypto. He's maybe referring to.
Correct.
I never understand the hype for gold either. I can stake my digital gold and make some interest. Yeah, okay. Which is Bitcoin effectively. Can you put okay. Crypto. He's a big fan of crypto. But crypto, as I said, is basically gambling. I'm all about property investment. I know where it is. I can see it. I can touch it. I can feel it. It makes money. It makes money regardless. And if I need to exit, I can just sell it and realise the asset. That's it in a nutshell. And you've not lost anything until you sell it, which is a good thing as well. And it doesn't matter. If you sell it, you sell it. I mean, if this is a test for everybody out there in property investment. If you sold everything tomorrow and you decided to sell it, and you sold it at break even, in other words, you didn't make anything and you didn't lose anything once you'd walked away, what position would you need to be in, and what position would property prices need to go to for you to hit that mark? Now, for me, property prices need to reduce by 50% before I'm concerned. Well, that's break even. So basically, property prices need to go down by 50%. If property prices go down by 50%, the world is crashed completely. Yeah. In the credit crunch, property prices dropped by 20%. So I don't think there'll ever be a time I'll never need to worry about the property market. I might worry about the day-to-day. Well, not really worry. I might be concerned about the day-to-day income that comes in and financing that. But if all else fails, you just sell everything and exit. If you're in that position, what does it matter? I'll go and do something else. Government builds loads of council houses tomorrow. Hurrah! I'll congratulate them. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I am now no longer needed. Thank God for that. I'll go and do something else now and enjoy that.
Victor said there, you'll never lose with property if you keep it for long term. And he's also said it's interesting what you said there about limited companies and obviously the years to come.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Yeah. I could definitely see that happening. We're an easy target.
Yeah, Victor, I've also noted, I've seen your comment earlier about getting an invite to our Zoom session. I'll send that across to you.
All right, definitely. Tenants won't leave because rents have gone up. Some will, some won't. It just depends. That's really what it comes down to. I know all your rents are behind market values, and interest rates are hurting you and all the rest of it. This is what Inspire for Success says. I absolutely agree. It can be extremely difficult. I'm quite fortunate to be in a position where I've made sure I've hedged myself against all that. I've got a lot of stuff that are fixed, so I don't need to be too concerned. However, you've probably seen me on most of the platforms giving the Scottish Government hell, because even though I'm okay, you're not okay.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sit well with me. Because when I need you, hopefully you'll step up to the mark and support me when it's my problem with the housing. This is what I don't understand. So this is where I'll finish off. The second homeowners, the holiday homeowners, the serviced accommodation market, the empty property owners, it can't get their property back into the market. I had gone on Friday and said about this. There's a lot of landlords and investors out there saying, well, double council tax will no affect me. It shouldn't affect, I'm not really particularly bothered. And I'm like, but that's not the point. The point is we're all in this together. We're all investors in property in some shape or form. We should stand united with each other and support each other against the government and what they're doing. Because if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And that's why we must band together as property investors overall and say enough's enough to the Scottish Government. We've had enough of your shite. We're not taking it anymore. We're going to stand up against you and we're going to fight against you. And that is the reason why the Scottish Association of Landlords and the NRFL, the National Federation of Landlords, has actually come up with a fund which is to raise £60,000. We're at £25,000 to raise £60,000 to fight this judicial review against the Scottish Government to say you've completely been prejudiced towards a specific group of people in society, and that is us, private landlords. And I'm not caring what they think. We need the empty homes owners, the second home owners and the serviced accommodation owners to stand up with us and unite with us in that thing, because that's 76,000 extra people across Britain. I know that because I've collated that all on Friday. I put all that together. That's 3% of the housing stock in the whole of Scotland. These people need to come behind us and support us on this occasion, because we'll support them, and I'm supporting them right now, and so is Sal. Because if they pick on them, it's almost like a case of divide and conquer. That's how the Scottish Government work. Once we've got you, we're coming on to you next. We're coming on to you next. And just sitting there and saying, it doesn't affect me, it's not my problem, doesn't wear it.
No.
That is not what we should be doing. We should be standing with each other as property investors and holding and keeping each other's backs and actually making sure we actually protect each other against this draconian Scottish Government in the terms of the Green Party, which is Patrick Harvie. And on that note, have a nice day.
Thanks for that, Jim. That was a good way to end today. Thanks, everybody, for taking part in questions and things. Jim and I, of course, are live every Monday, 12:30. Jim, you and I will be live together again Saturday morning.
Yes, we will. But I tell you what, you're going to talk about that. But please, for God's sake, share these posts. Yeah. Share them, like them. Put angry faces on them or anything. Put whatever you want.
Just to get them out there.
Engage with these posts and share these posts and tag your friends in these, fellow property investors. Share them on your investment property platforms, because we need to stand together as a united organisation, as property investors and as investors overall. Because they'll pick on somebody else next, and they'll pick on somebody else next, and they'll be after the pensions fund next, they'll be after the SIP funds next, they'll be after something else next. We'll get nailed to the wall. And this is all about protecting your wealth, and your wealth.
Definitely.
I'll get off my
soapbox now. Thanks for that.
Bye for now, folks.
Thanks, everyone. Right, bye.
Bye, Instagram.